So we said that this is the new state. We've done. So now, if I will go to page, there's an error. Objects are not valid as React type. Found object with keys, text, done ID. If you mean to render a collection of children, use an array instead.
Can you explain what's the problem here?
Yes.
The one and anyone else?
Just read it. Objects are not valid React child. React child means something that you render inside the render function.
Yeah, like a list, like
yes, NI and stuff.
An
These are
element of
children.
HTML. Like
Yeah. So objects are not valid.
Yeah, because it has
And before it was valid, before we had only one string, so we were rendering strings. Now we are rendering objects. So can you think about what's there? Read the
They want to show the console.
Yeah.
It should be you should use dots because dots ID dots.
Yeah, exactly. Because now we are rendering an object. If you go to the list, no, this one. We're rendering the list. Yeah, which is wrong. So here we should say item.text. Because we are trying to render an object. Because the whole item now becomes an object. So there's an error. That should be fixed. Another thing is, we can replace now key, not with item, because item is an object, with item.id. Cool. Do we need to? Yeah. And here we can say item.id. Or before, let's not edit this function. Let's go to the to-dos. Let's talk about add to-do. So whenever you add to-do now, hello, it will screw the whole render. Because we are adding string now. We are saying concat string. And now it should be an object with text. This is the new format that we have. We have this format. Okay?
Is to do that text.
Yeah.
You should remove input text. No.
We should create a new, for example, const to do. Or let's name a new to do. Okay? And it's an object with text, precisely, text.
Input text.
Input text.
Yes, but you don't need to. Yeah, okay.
I don't need what?
No, nothing. No. Okay. Then.
And I need done
Done.
to be false.
Okay.
And I need an ID.
ID.
I use random number because it's complete with
That's not an ID. That's not an ID. That's a random number. It doesn't call an ID. So we are in the problem that you described.
Yeah.
We need a new ID. Now we need that function or something that will return us the new ID. I have an idea. We can take the last to do and add one to its ID.
or the length of variables.
Okay.
Good idea? So we can take this to do,
Okay.
take its own ID,
Okay.
say +1. And that's our to do ID.
Go ahead.
Then
We can do that, or we can do something else.
because
We can have a variable
Mm-hmm.
X or ID, and every time we add a to do, we increment it.
Yeah.
And we put it here.
Yes.
That's also another idea.
But if you delete the one item, then you will say take that one and add a +1. Then we will not be the next one, isn't it?
I don't understand.
yeah.
Like in databases, when you say the concept in.
Please, we're not like talk about databases and
No,
IDs.
no,
like,
I'm just giving an example on this.
Yeah.
That when you create an item, they give you an ID, and then when you create another item, they take you that ID, the last ID +1. Okay. When you delete the one item and you add a new one, it will give you the last ID that you have deleted +1.
Yeah.
So it will be ID number
even
1,
if
ID
you,
2,
if you
ID
delete
4.
two, if you delete two,
It will
it
be
will say
ID
if you-
1, ID 5.
Yeah.
The second one.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be like that, isn't it?
No. Then what it should? What should be
Yeah.
like that? What is your solution then?
I thought that it give you the ID automatically every time when you delete it, and it take the same spot. So it's like
The thing that you should understand, IDs are not just numbers. IDs are indexes,
yeah,
and they are used for more than just like
unique,
auto increment.
unified.
They are unique and also they are indexed. So if you say 4, so I will give you just a small idea. We can store the stuff. So if, for example, Facebook, they would say if the ID is less than 5, store it in the US. If it's more than 5, store it in Europe. So ID is much more than a number. It's not just a number. It's more of an index and a lot of stuff happening. Okay, so deleting stuff, and sometimes they even don't delete stuff because the database is waiting for backups and stuff. Well, but yeah, it's out of scope. So here we have a lot of options. Which one you prefer? I can show you the first option. The first option is having like const. No, not const because we need to increment. Let ID equal 0. Okay? And we can say here, no, yeah, and the first, we will say ID 1. Okay? And we say here ID plus plus. What? So we are initializing with ID plus plus. What does it mean?
Every time it will add one number to the.
No, this is the state. I'm not saying every time. This will run once. It's inside the constructor.
Yeah.
I'm not inside the function.
Every time that you make a new object.
No, yeah, but we are not inside the object. We are inside the state.
What do you have over there? Is it 0?
ID 1.
No.
This will run once. This is the initial state. This is, if I'm putting here, yes, it will every time it will run. But this is
ID equal to.
what?
The ID equal to.
Yeah, it will be here. It will be 1, not 2. But it will be because like the problem with plus plus, it's after, not before. If the plus plus is after, it will make ID the current value and increment it. So it will not increment it and assign it. It's like
the this.
Increment and keep.
it's like let I equal 1. Okay?
Yeah.
Let's say V equal
I plus plus.
I plus plus. V, is it 1 or 2 or what?
Two now.
Now,
It's 1.
Why?
You know why? Because if the plus plus it's after the I, it will say V equal the current I, which is 1. When it's done, it will say plus plus.
yeah.
Okay, so it's like two things. It's like put the current value of I in V and make it plus 1. But if we say now V is 1, okay?
Yeah.
And I is 2.
Okay.
So I is incremented after,
Increment itself.
yeah.
I equal I plus 1.
In fact, it's 2 line.
Yeah, it's 2 lines. Precisely, it's 2 lines. If it's too confusing, we can remove this.
And what's the
Okay.
solution then? If you remove that part, then what's the solution? After the add, it should be I plus plus.
Exactly. So after the add, we need to increment it ourselves. So now ID will start with 1. Okay? So here when we add, we say
We add the
ID equal ID plus 1. Okay?
Shouldn't be
After you mean?
no the ID that is in the state.
We don't have ID inside the state. Which ID is inside the state?
ID.
Yeah, but that's just a variable. It's not inside the state.
Yeah, no, the key. Of
Yeah.
the
Oh, you mean the key
yeah,
of the
to-dos,
to-dos?
yeah,
Specify one.
the key of the to-dos. You do.
Not necessarily.
I was thinking if you added, that state ID plus 1.
Like this one and this one, they will be synchronized. They will be the same. This one and this one. So we don't need to get this one. We can just reach to this one.
Excuse me, why you put the let's say equal to 1 to the out of the class?
Because I can put it inside the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I don't really need it inside the state. You know when I will need it inside the state? If I need to show, for example, like the list of to-dos here, and with their ID or something, or with the count of IDs, that means that now the variable will
You need
impact
to
the render.
initialize it, yeah.
It will impact the render. But now it's just a dummy variable that I'm using it. I'm not displaying the ID. I'm not using the ID to display something.
Before that, you have the three items.
Yeah.
The ID is 1, 2, 3. How we can take these three? We can take these three.
We can.
And after that, for new one, plus.
We said
one
that.
is-
We said that before. We can take the ID of the last to do and add plus to it. The last to do, we take its ID and add plus to it.
But it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It doesn't do that now. We are using a different solution.
Oh, yeah, it's a difference.
Because before we didn't consider this ID. We're just deleting item by using the text.
Oh,
So as Badr said that, for example, Badr comes twice, so it will be then confusing which one I delete. So now we introduce a new concept.
so we read without any item in the JSON.
No,
So
that's
it's
a
just
different
stuff.
thing. That's a different thing. But the
Please,
idea
it's
is
not JSON.
yeah.
It's just an array.
And what question, sorry.
Yeah.
When you push a new object.
Not to JSON.
No, right now.
Yeah.
Right now you are making a new object, okay?
Yeah.
And every object will have a unique ID. And when you are going to delete it, actually you delete for example, if you delete the object with ID 5, you will never have the ID 5
No.
again.
If the ID is just going up.
That's what I was saying before.
The ID is just going up.
It doesn't matter because
It doesn't matter exactly. If we have a constraint over the ID that we need to reuse it, that would be another story.
Yeah.
But here we are just trying to make it as simple as dumb as possible. As long as it works, it serves its purpose. This is the most important thing. Because when you work in real projects, you will have time limits. You can create the next Facebook. It's out of scope. You have the budget to create the next to-do list, not the next Facebook. So just do the next to-do list.
Yeah, what I was saying is the idea of making this value equal 1 to the key of the to-dos list it's not something that we will use, but it's not either wrong.
Yeah, in real life you will not have IDs on the front end like generated and stuff. The ID will be coming from the back end really. You will have an item from the database with its own ID and stuff. So that's a different thing.
So it's not a problem if you create an external variable or make it inside the state.
If it's a problem, we will see as we are coding. We will have like a problem and we will need to change it. Okay, so here we will say, because now we are already using 1 in the default, here 1. So before we add to the to-do, we say ID equal ID plus 1. So we make it 2 and after that we can use it. Okay, and now we can say new to-do. So we will add the new object to the array of objects. And I would say that's enough. So let's say to do 3. That's enough. Nothing is complaining, everything is clear. Cool. Another thing, now I want to delete. If I will add the same text, I already have it here, and I will delete. Well, no, it's not doing that because it's comparing objects.
But now you have to delete it by ID.
Precisely. So let's do that. So we go to the delete to do. It doesn't take text anymore. It takes ID. Of course, I can keep text here and pass the ID, but that will be confusing. So just name it properly. And new to dos. This dot state dot to dos dot filter. Not to do it's different the text. It's to do dot ID.
Equal to ID.
No, it's different than ID because I want to take all of them except that one. It's a filter. I'm deleting it.
Give you the fourth one.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a filter.
Yes.
It's like give me all except that one.
Keep all of them
Except that one. So it's different. So we say ID. So I iterate over to do IDs, and I take the current ID and I see.
And here minus for ID you can.
We don't need that.
Okay.
Well, we're not trying to build like a counter up or something. It doesn't matter. As long as we have unique IDs, we could go with the math.random. But the problem with math.random, it's not sequential. But it's fine.
And here the new to do line 42 is array. Line 42.
Just a second. 40. Yes,
It's a new array.
it's a new array because filter will always return a new array. That gives us all the item except the ID that we passed. So if this is 1 and there is 1, 2, and we want to delete 2, it will take 1, but it will not take 2. It will filter. Okay? We are missing something. We need to check where this function is called and change the ID there.
The list.
In the list, because we are rendering list here
Yes.
and passing it delete this item, delete to do. And here we are getting it this dot props delete this item, and we are calling it when you click the button. And we are passing item. We should not pass item. Item.id. So hello, add.
And would you please explain why did you use the array function in a
Here?
Yes.
Because like, do you have like a better solution for that, or no? Can you imagine like something that is much simpler or something? No. Because I don't think there is an option. So if I can do this, but that doesn't work. This doesn't work because the function would be called immediately when you render this.
Yes, you are right.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
It will not wait for the click. It will just be called.
Yes.
So I want a function that will call this when it gets called. This is why I use an arrow function. Or a function. I can do this.
Yeah, I got it.
You got the idea? Because I need to wait for the click. Or I can extract this. I can make it a separate function. I can say, for example, function. Delete item. It's a function. And yeah, it just does this.
Okay.
And here we say this dot delete item.
It doesn't really matter if you.
And we say yeah. We
You
say
cannot do that because it was inside the map.
exactly. Now there is another problem. I cannot even do that because it's inside the map. So literally, I need to inline it inside the map. Because inside the map is the only place where I know which ID I want to delete. Outside, I don't know. So I need to call it inside. But not call it immediately, call it when the click happens. We can do this. Yeah, but that's too confusing.
No, the last one.
Okay, is it clear now why we are doing that?
Yes.
Cool. So hello, delete to do one, hello is there.
Cool.
Is it cool?
Can you please console the return the.
Oh, you mean the list of to-dos?
Yeah, of the when you create them and you got them, I want to see the ID. When you create
Yeah,
the
exactly.
first one,
So
the second ID.
we can do it.
Component.
Component mount. No, component mount will run only once after the mount.
Yeah.
So every time the component will update, we want to show the new to-dos. When you delete, when there is set state, there is a life cycle called component did update. So there is did mount, there is did update.
Console.log. This starts to do.
No, this is not state.
State.to do.
Precisely. This is what we need. Exactly. So now let's go now here. We say hello. Now every time we are typing, it's re-rendering actually.
Because we
Because we are typing and we are saying set state every time we type. So we delete this, we say add to do. Now we have two to dos, one with one and one with two.
Okay, but you delete. Okay, just add more.
I can say hello to. We have three to dos.
And delete number 2.
No, yeah, number 2.
Yes.
Number two.
Yes.
Yeah, number 2.
So we now have one
Okay,
true.
and add add another one.
4.
Yeah.
It will be four.
Yes.
It's always going up, 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 up. It will never take.
So it means that the variable is stored somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
This is the variable.
This is the state.
This is
the
the variable.
state change every time.
This is the variable.
Yeah, and,
It's outside the variable.
Yeah, I got it. But if you go down on the add to do,
Yeah.
you say ID plus 1.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, when you render it again,
Yeah.
and you do this state,
So every time you call this function, it will be
I will
plus one.
store a new ID.
The new ID,
We will
yes.
store a new ID.
So we are replacing the old ID.
The old ID.
Okay. This is the ID.
So actually, the left ID that you called is called the first time, and that's it.
Yeah. This one is just the first time you run the
First
file.
time and-
If I will refresh again, it will be called again.
To store the index of the array, it wasn't a good idea.
Sorry?
The index of the array.
It
It wasn't a good idea. Could be a good idea. It's fine. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. So we can change something else.
No, that.
We can put this inside the constructor. So as we are saying this, we can say this dot id equal id, or not id, sorry, equal 1. We simply move it here. Okay, and here we don't say id, we say this dot id. And here we don't say id, we say this dot id equal this dot id plus 1. And we say with this.
say this that state that ID.
It's not state. It's a property.
Yeah, but it's inside the state.
It's not inside the state. Look, this
no,
is the state.
the one that you want to set it
Yeah,
up.
but here we said
You
just
want
like
to set it up.
take it from here. Like before we had it outside. So, for example, like I can take this and say const initial text. It doesn't mean that this is state. I'm just taking the value from here. But that's not state.
So it's
Is it
not
clear?
Yeah,
ID.
because when I talk about state, I talk about the keys. Because you take
No,
the value
when
from the
you
key.
talk about the state, you talk about the content that is inside the state, and not what's referenced. So this is not state. This is just a value. So if I will change this variable initial text, that would not change anything here. It's like this is the same thing as using x equal 1. After that, y equal x plus 1, or just equal x. Why it's 1? If I will change x to 5, y will not change.
Because it's before the.
It's not because it's before, but if I will take the value of something, that means I will not keep track of it and follow it.
Just copy it.
Just copy its value and it's done. I don't have any relationship with that thing. I just like, give me your value, done. It's like, I meet you now, but after half an hour, I don't know where are you. I met you, but I don't know where, like, if I met you at 4, that doesn't guarantee that at 4:30 I'm with you, or I don't know you, or I know where are you exactly.
If you're really interested, because this is out of scope, but if you're really interested what to do, just search Google for copy something like key or
Oh,
something by
yes.
reference. Okay? Then you will get like get key, get item like key, and get item by reference. Okay?
I will actually put it here. So I would say passing by value and reference, value and reference. Google it. This is really important. Are we good?
Do you need this piece of code?
Yes, yes.
I pushed it. You didn't see the. It's online.
Yeah,
Did you see my subthread?
Yes. Yes, the last time you sent it. But that's online now. Now it's there.
Yeah, you just go there.
I think it's the same thing, same place.
or app example.
I didn't push it yet, but I will push it. But it's over there. The link will.
Yes, I have it.
Okay. So do you get the idea that we are just using something?
Exactly. I wanted to do this, but I wasn't successful.
So let's move the complexity from here. Good. So what does this line really do? This dot id equal 1.
So those
Is this state or what?
It's variable for those ID.
is a
Exactly.
Not-
So what we are sure about something. It's not state. It doesn't have anything to do with state. That's something. It's not props, because if it's props, we are getting it from the parent. Are we getting this from the parent?
No, from the class itself. From the class itself.
Exactly. So this is just. You remember when we create the class, the shape class and the circle and stuff in the first week to learn about extent? I said name this dot name. So inside the class you can store variables or properties, and this is just a property inside the class. So this doesn't have anything to do with React. This is pure JavaScript and object oriented. We are just putting a variable here inside the class or property. Make sense? So I can say this.id equals something, and every time I can say this.id plus 1. So I can get it and I can set it. So if you want to put like a variable, because like it was outside, it was fine outside, but now every time I need to move this class or change file, I need to also get that ID and put it outside. It's like a bit annoying. I want to have everything inside the class. This is the whole idea about object oriented. You have one class, and then everything is there, all what the class needs.
So the reason is that you create a state with the thing that you would like to change during the life cycle.
Precisely.
That's what you do.
And the state means if I will change it, I will re-render again.
Yeah. So you wanted to get kinda updated again.
Yeah.
By clicking or doing something.
That's why it is called state.
Because it's my state. Like I'm sad, I'm happy. Like it's a state inside me.
At this moment, this is my step. Like for example, if you delete this, so now I'm in this step. Okay, I'm adding this. Now I'm in this step. So consider from
Like this.
Yeah. So it's as I said, it will
The reaction is changed.
Yeah. Or you can change it with a set timeout.
Oh.
Every 2 seconds, change it. It doesn't matter. You have something that is called your state, and you change it somehow. Maybe you change it with a set timeout from an API call. We don't know. You change it because of something. That thing could be anything. But just like at some given point, as he said, you would have a state. It's like now you have your own state inside. Okay? And it's internal to you. No one knows about it. You can show state, you can show that you are happy, but maybe you're not. You know what I mean? And you react to something. You react to good news, to bad news, to going home, to not going home, to the class. So this is state technically. It's something internal, and whenever it changes you, and yeah, you can change it, and you can get it. So let's proceed. Until now we are good. So everything is working. We can add, we can delete. Now we need the line through.
Yeah.
Okay, that means it's done. So we need to mark something that it's done. Okay? So I will choose to make a checkbox next to the item because it's individual state.
Should be include and check.
Type checkbox, precisely. Exactly. It's the way we do it in HTML. So inside the list, I have the button, and before the button, I will have I'll just create a span. I'll just create in a span. And inside it, I would say input or
Why you need style?
I was thinking about styling it, but we will see. And as you said, it's type checkbox.
And on chain.
We have it here. Okay, just like every time we do something, check. Don't go and write like 2 hours of code, and after that you go to the editors like, what I did. Write just small amount of code and just small amount. So we know exactly if there is a mistake, where it was the mistake. Because if you write for 1 hour and you go there, it's like, I did so many stuff. I cannot remember exactly where I did my mistake. Cool? So yeah, now it's checked and stuff. So every time we change it now, we want the line to be here. Okay? And that's done using CSS.
Yeah, you need.
So I need a CSS class first.
Stack decoration.
But first, okay.
Let's try the CSS class. I will go open the CSS file and say, I will delete this.
Changes.
I will say
Input.
to do item.
No, it should be to do
Done.
text. Done.
To do item, not text.
Because you are lining only the text.
Yeah, but still, it's applied to the whole item. Maybe in the future we will not do it to the text, we will do it to other things.
Ah, okay.
So just thinking in a more general way. Maybe we will not have text at all, maybe we will have images. Just like, it's an item that it's done. Technically. You can have text, it's fine. This is something called PEM. I don't know if you know it, but it's basically a block element. So it's like, this is the name, and this is 2 dashes, it's done. So we can have to do done, to do, for example, delay. It's like modifier. So it's just a way to write CSS classes.
Okay.
It's not something complex. But just like when you see it, you know that it's a to-do item, but it's done. This is like BAM. You can Google it after. So I can say text, decoration, line true.
But
Let's-
what if you do in this case we are doing it for the checkbox? Yeah?
No, for the text.
Oh no, this okay.
So now, technically, if I will say class name, so here I need a span over the text, because the text is less floating around. Okay, and here I would say class name, and give it, it's still not done, but I'm just trying to show you. So we have all the stuff to make it work. But now every time you click on that, we will take the line and put it back. Okay. So let's remove this. Okay, and put it here on the top. Last time I asked about something that why we are writing everything in one file. That's not a good practice, but it's I'm favoring more that you understand and you see everything in one file than really jumping between 3 and 4 files. So there's a difference between like working professionally and like showing stuff. If I want to show stuff, it's better in one file because we can scroll up, down, and we have everything. If I have another file and to jump to it, it's not convenient. Make sense? But favor one React component per file. This is the rule. But it's really a company rule. Yeah. Yeah. There is something I can show to you just in Airbnb guide. You know Airbnb? It's a website where you can actually rent like
Apartment.
rooms and apartments. It's nothing technical, don't worry. it's just Airbnb. So you can choose like so you can rent stuff. So this company Airbnb is really famous about using React. They're a big React user, and they contribute a lot to the community. Like Enzyme is there, and just that stuff. So if you go to Airbnb style guide, they have style guide. The style guide means how you should write code. not in the thinking way, but how you should structure your variables, your classes. You know what I mean? Like one class and then one stuff like that. So you can go to the JavaScript style guide. There's a lot of guidelines. This is an example. You can look for example, like they have really small stuff. How you should write arrays and stuff. For example, they are saying don't use var, it's bad, use it's good. It's bad, this is good. Okay? We can go to more examples. Yeah, this creating new object this, it's bad, this is good. Get key like this is bad, this is better. You know, it's just a style. And they have a JavaScript one, a CSS one, and a React one. So you can see and follow the guidelines. We can see. Yeah, for example, they say if it's a map, it's bad to use function, use a arrow function. But this is really opinionated. You can disagree with this. You know what I mean? It's up to you. It's something that you adopt with your company, but it's good to read it, and you can see that there is a lot of conventions and stuff. So there is a JavaScript guideline, there is ES5, there is React, there is CSS and JS, CSS and Sass, and Ruby. They have all guidelines for this. So check it out. If you want to learn how to write code kind of professionally with teams, because now it's like you are working in Airbnb, because you need to follow the whole convention.
And also it is very important, like when you are interviewing, like go to an interview place, obviously you will share your GitHub code actually, and they didn't know what you did. They just go through very quickly what you did, and these things are really helpful. If they saw that you are in a good shape, like you know, like what I did, like every time if I would like to create a new variable, I just type something garbage, and that's not a good practice actually. Whatever it is, put the right name, right variable name, right styling.
Yeah.
Like this is the resource that you are creating for only for you.
Yeah.
So just clean it and make it as beautiful as you can. And this is a kind of representation that your employer actually just looked at. Okay, these guys know how to code.
Yeah, he knows guidelines, and he's like professional how he writes code.
He or she never asked you like, hey, do you ever go to this Airbnb code guidelines?
It doesn't matter.
Definitely, they never ask you. Actually. But if you can show this kind of thing in your code, then they can understand that what is your level.
That's really important. Yeah. And it's easy. You can even have code format. So for example, if I would do this, I would have a lot of space. I would save. It would be automatically formatted using the Airbnb slider. You can configure prettier to do that. But that's out of scope, but it's good to have that. So we have span now. And whenever we change the checkbox, so this is an input. And whenever you change it, there is an on change and there is value. This is what we need. We need the change and value. Okay? So we need to put it inside somewhere. Like for example the input text. The input text is an input, and whenever you type, we keep it inside the state. Because as we discussed before, we don't want to put the state inside the HTML elements. We want to put it inside our application, and they will consume it. Like the input here. I don't say input.getValue or target value. I don't do that. I put the input value using this one, value and onChange. I put it inside the state. You can see here. You remember this? Yeah. Without the solution, I'm just like talking about the old problem that we had. We have a text here, and here we say, and we have a value on change handler, to do text handler, and we pass to do text handler with the value. And whenever this on change will happen, we go, we change the text. We are updating the text every time. And this is why whenever you type, you can see console.log. Because whenever you type, the component is updated because we call set state. Is it clear a bit?
So each time you type, we initialize the state.
No, you change the value of state. You don't initialize it, you change the value with the new input content. So every time you type, you're changing the value of the variable input text or inside the state to match the new thing that you type here. So now it contains G, VG, now it's H, VGH, and H. You keep adding the characters. Is it clear?
Continue, I want to know.
No,
What do you mean?
What I'm just talking about this. We did it like the whole time. I'm not talking about anything else. Just this button. I can re-explain it if it's still.
No, I'm just thinking.
I think they're
You're good with that? Cool. So now, do we have? So always ask yourself this question: do we have anything here inside the state that represents? Oh, first thing, do I need to put the state of this, if it's done or not, inside the state?
Inside of the state.
Should I put it inside the state or just like in a random variable outside?
We can do it inside the state.
No,
No,
inside of the state.
do I need to do that? Do I need or it's
No,
optional?
you don't need optional because you can get it somewhere.
No, I said
No,
we
it's
because
need.
We need, you know why? As we said before, because every time we change this, we put a line, remove it, put a line, remove it. So we will have rendering based on the value. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That means that we need the state. If my changes will impact the render, 95% I need state. Is it clear?
If it wasn't for a line.
Yeah.
Just changing the state of, from
Yeah.
true to false. You don't need to.
We still need state because it's for every item and it's the state of the item itself. So what do you
Yeah,
suggest?
because the item you get the final item on the list render.
Yeah,
So you have to.
I need to
every
have.
time.
Yeah. So I need to have like a state that is saying it's done or not. So we agreed that we need to put it inside the state. That's the first thing that you should decide. The second thing, do I have something that already exists that I can represent the thing that I want to add with, or I need to add a new thing? For example,
no,
we have the input text for the text, so I don't need to add a new thing for the text of the to-do. Every time you create a new to-do text, I get this one and put it here, add a new array. Because this will hold my text. Yeah. So do I have something that can represent if the to-do is done or not?
Done.
done.
Precisely. So I don't need to create a new state.
No. You have to change.
Yeah. I only change this one. So whenever you click on the first one, I go get the first to-do and change this to false and true. And based on that, I render the line. Make sense? But let's do that. Let's create a function. Let's say market done. It takes which to-do ID you want to mark it down. Clear? So now, if you want to mark it down, what do we need to do? We need to actually take this and flip it to true. And when you toggle it again, we flip it to false. True. So we keep changing a specific to-do state. We get the state of the to-do and we change this one. Clear?
function that added to the input.
Yeah, and this is that function. So we will pass this function
Okay.
to the to-do, and the to whenever you click the click, it will call this function. Okay? Let's try and say console.log ID.
Okay. When you click on the input, you will console log.
Yeah. So let's pass it to the list because the items are inside the list.
Yeah.
So we say done
Done.
handler equal this dot mark it done.
But the done handler now it's a props of the
Precisely.
the list.
So now inside the list I say this dot props dot done handler.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So if I go to the list, you can see here. So inside it, if I would say this dot props dot done handler, this one, no, I'm just putting it here. There's nothing. This represents
Yeah.
this one,
Yes.
which is this one.
Yeah.
Clear? So, but I don't need to put it here. But instead, I want to put it on the checkbox.
On the change.
So let's say on change.
Equal. Bracket. Yes.
Before the on change, I want to do something.
Well.
I want to make the checkbox value based on what I have here. Sorry. What I have here.
Yeah, false.
Why you need that?
False.
Because if it's done, I want the checkbox to be there. Checked. If it's not done, I don't want to be checked.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
You get the idea. So if it's like lunch row, I want it to be checked. And from where I can get this value, it's simply item.
Right.
So I can say value equal item
Done.
done. Only one thing. I will add the first one, for example, to be true. Just so we can see.
Will be checked.
Just the first one. The others will be false when they add it. You can see here.
Yeah.
It's not. Because of something. Well, before that, let's check something. Let's check that the first to do is true. But this one is not checked. Why?
Because you didn't even did on change status because
I don't need that. I'm only displaying. I don't want the on change. I just want to display.
Checked the attribute of input.
What do you mean?
So it's checked when the item is true.
The item is already true.
So you do on change.
No.
value-
I'm not trying to handle the change. I'm just displaying it for the first time. If it's true, display this.
But Badr, do you know that you were talking about this functions that functions will happen when
Change them.
something.
But no, I'm not doing anything. I just want to display.
So if value input that change. I will do it like that.
Okay,
Input
so-
that change because the change is an attribute of.
I would say everything here is enough to do it. Everything here is enough to do it. We don't need to add anything. We just need to correct a small typo here, which is this. We need to make it checked.
Check. This is that check.
Yeah.
Input that
We will
check.
talk about the one. So checkbox is the only. It's an exception. Say checkbox doesn't take value. It takes checked.
Yes, it's showed in the document. I find a document.
Yes. So just remember that. That takes you. Like I remember. Like believe me. Just a few days ago, like I came to the office and we were discussing this with some of my colleagues, and they forgot that it takes. And it's not working. It's not checked. And because they were passing value. So it's like it's an error that everybody does. Okay? So remember, it takes checked, not value.
You understand everyone? Like what happened here?
They took check and uncheck.
No,
No, just check. If check is false, so
Then
if this is false,
it means it's empty.
it's empty. If check is true, it's checked.
In all of
Because I know that there is another attribute on the input checkbox,
It's
type
like-
checkbox that is unchecked, called unchecked. So
Yeah.
if it's unchecked, you can, for instance, it sounds stupid, but I want the line when it's unchecked.
I don't. What do you mean by I want the line?
Because line
Line
true.
true.
When it's unchecked.
It's like a class.
Yeah, but that's I do it with an if else. But now we're not talking about the line true. The only thing that we are talking about now is the checkbox.
So like reject is a keyword.
Yeah, it's an attribute.
It's like class and class.
It's like class. It's like for label like.
Because
Unchanged.
you're changing it through check equal true, check equal false. So
Yeah.
the unchecked check.
Yeah,
unchecked
unchecked check.
Based on what you have.
Exactly. So this one is changing based on this one.
Excuse me, when, look at the line 10, when the item dot done is truly. the
So checked will be true.
check, yes.
It will be true.
And if it was false,
It will be false,
it.
which means it will not be checked.
Okay.
So if I will pass true here, it's checked.
Check. If,
I can go to React, just a second. If it's checked, it's checked. If it's not, it's not. False, true. False, true.
is it necessary to add this attribute in every checkbox?
I know without that, that's
Uh,
not
you
how it
don't-
works. You understand what I mean? Like, check, what is the
Okay,
purpose of
so
adding
you-
this check?
Okay.
Because otherwise, I will not know if it's checked or not.
Also for radio.
Maybe that's out of scope.
I think radio is on something called click or something similar.
Same.
Yeah,
I didn't
but-
work with the radio buttons
Yeah.
forever.
But,
Clear?
but definitely not on chains or on something. Okay? Those are something else.
You can go to GitHub. You can go to Google and say React input, for example. Say, and there is a form section,
Yeah, yes.
and we can say for radio, it doesn't exist.
I shared this rating.
Yeah. For the checkbox, at least, you can say here it's checked.
See target that value.
Yeah. So we are good to go. Now we need when we change it,
When you change it,
we go to the state and change this to false or true. So we say on change
brackets, if, oh, yes,
This drops
this,
the item.
this dot props that delete this item. I'm putting it inside a variable here, so it will be shorter. And I call it with what?
No, it's not. It's not.
ID.
You have to render it.
Render what?
ID.
Item.
This one is another function that delete.
Item.
Oh, sorry. It's const done handler. This dot props dot done handler. And we give it ID.
Item.
What's that ID?
What
Good
happened?
ID.
Yes. Const, down handler,
We just like instead of writing the whole line,
okay.
I just put it in a variable, so it's shorter.
Yes, but what is the line 8?
Line is the delete item.
Okay.
It's another function for the delete button. You remember
Okay.
the function for the delete?
Yes, yes.
Delete one is on the right one when you click. And
It's this one.
Okay.
That's it. So yeah. So now whenever we click this, we change it. It's only showing the ID. So now if we say I will test add,
And if you change it,
now it's 2.
Yeah.
So now we need to get the to-do object inside the array that has this ID. Okay? Change it and put it back in the state. We will see how we will do that.
if it's
We will see. So we have market as done. So what we are trying to do? What we are trying to do is we have an array with IDs, and so we need first to get the ID that we need. So let's say we have two. So we take this object, we take it, we change done, we toggle it. Toggle it means like if it's false we make it true, if it's true we make it false. We just change in between, and we put it back in this state. If that's clear. Is it clear a bit? So the first thing, so there's a lot of ways we can do that.
If
We use map because we are changing value on the key.
But it's on
Map will
all-
change everything.
no, you don't need to
Um,
do the map.
Exactly.
Some
Make your life easy.
filter.
If in the panel
No, filter, no,
this
no.
dot state dot to do dot done, that's true.
Done.
Done.
Do you-
But which one I want to edit? Because it's an array. I want to take one of them.
Fine.
The ID.
No, just don't think about methods and stuff. Just say it in clear English what you should do. After that, you can find the method that suits
You
you.
activate the array. You activate the array. So you have each object.
Yeah.
And then each object you got for the ID that you passing from the market done, and then from that ID you check if this is equal to true, make it false. If it's not,
We can just toggle it.
You should say,
Yeah.
you should make a new array and search for that.
Okay, exactly. So the dummiest possible way is to make new array and change, because we remember every time we need to make new copies. Okay, so we can say const. We can just take a new array.
New to do. New to do.
Yeah, new to do's. We want to take a new array. How to take a new array? We can use the spread operator.
I will do it in a different way.
Of course. I'll
Definitely
judge you that there is like at least 20 ways you can do this.
because I don't get why the point to take the same array, the first array that you have done from the state, that you're doing three dot.
Because it's
This will copy it. This will copy the array and make a new array.
Okay, but what the reason?
The reason is like instead of editing the first array, we make a copy. It's a new array, and we edit this our new array. We don't copy the old array. We don't edit the old array. Of course, this is not obvious, but whenever you go to a bigger application and you need like to track which stuff, for example, Facebook, if you add a comment, that means that there's an array of comments in the whole page. So they need to check which comment is added in which part, and this is what we make the copies. This is why React makes copies, so we know that stuff changed.
Yeah, but every time when you re-enter,
Yeah.
the state will update again.
No, not the state. You update the state.
Yeah, but you update it with.
But you need to update it with a new value.
Okay. but
Because
what-
I will show you something.
You should make the value and after that update.
And so if you take, for example, like x equal 1, 2, 1, 3, and you say x of 1, it means the 3 equal 4.
This one is
Did,
four now.
did it change or not? Did x change or not? We don't know. We cannot know. This is why people, they copy arrays and they edit the arrays. So they are sure that this changed. You know what I mean? You can keep track of changes.
Yeah,
Because now we don't have any idea if x literally changed or not.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that to get the first because when you copy it, you copy the first array. You're copying it.
The whole array.
Yeah, you're copying it from the state.
Yes.
So you're taking the main stuff of the array that you have put in.
Yeah, the
No,
whole
no,
to-dos.
Yeah, the first one. You added
Yeah,
on
this
the,
one.
on the state.
This one.
The state. Yeah. So what if you do this that state that to do and you do because it's an array of object and you do square bracket and you do ID. So we will take the state.todo square bracket because and ID, and you store it in a variable, and then you check if this variable that this is true.
But
this is
the thing that you didn't get is when we change this, that means that we are only changing this object.
that's what we want to do.
No.
But because
We want to create a whole new array. And in that new array, we want to change the none.
I don't know.
Yeah,
you know the concept that I just want to take this one, edit it, and push it back in the same one.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
then I will call again the same array. You know, when I edit it, I will call.
That's
this
the easy part. But that's also like the problem with this part that you are saying is in critical applications, you need to know what changed. The way you are doing it, whenever it changed, we don't know exactly what changed. So it's really important to figure out what changed exactly. Because here, if we edit this done false, okay, and we run them again, are we sure that this changed or this changed or this changed? Which one changed? We don't know. We are only making the change and it's done.
Well, I think
Yeah, but
the thing will clear soon actually.
My idea.
Yeah,
it doesn't really mean.
It doesn't mean anything.
Because if we need to
No,
change
it doesn't mean anything because this is the way we used to write applications, is by mutating stuff. But in the new world, with React and stuff, people they don't it's of course it's more of a philosophy. It's not something that you should do. But the way they write application in React when you get hired or something, they don't change this stuff. This is why in every code you see the spread and concat. For example, here, we could use push, but we use concat instead because we will not edit the first one. So I will have a clear idea about what's changing. So if I need to add to do, if I will use 2 pushes, I will not sure exactly if I did 2 or 3 or 4. I'm not sure. But when you copy, you know exactly what changed. But of course, this is completely optional. So what Badr was saying is we can go with the simple way without doing the immutability way. We can go with his way, definitely. So let's say X, he's saying item.
Yeah, I mean, you can choose. I mean, the best way you can.
Yeah, but we are also trying to actually compare and see. So we can do it this way first, and after that we can say item dot done equal not item dot done. We flip it. Okay.
Yeah, but what if you doesn't know? Yeah, probably you see it from
It's
the
true,
UI.
false, true, false.
Yeah, you know it from the.
Not
UI.
even if you do if else will has the same meaning because you are toggling between two. You know what I mean?
If it was true,
it will be false, and if false, it will be true.
We don't need the if.
It's like what we are doing. What we are doing is true, not true equal false, and not false equal true.
But you target the ID. Oh, okay. Then you.
And also this is something wrong because we should not do that.
Yeah.
What we should do really, because the ID, it's by chance.
Okay.
If we delete, it will be 5, and 5 doesn't guarantee to be.
Yeah, because it's not a good practice actually, and it will definitely create more problem in future. So always.
You get the idea?
Yeah, so it's better to take the first.
So we can say
So you need to believe in your state. That's the only thing.
find. You can say find, or find index. We can say find index, and we get the to do, and we say to do dot ID equal. Now we say equal because I want to take only that one, and that will give me the index. So now I can say this dot state dot to do's dot index. Until here we are good. We can say console dot log to do. Every time you test, you write some code, you test.
Yeah, and then you have to set the state again. You have to-
It's not working. State is wrong. Why? You can see here. Cannot read property state of undefined. This line. You remember why?
Can you go back to the
Code.
To do separations.
Yeah. It's saying that state is undefined. Why state is undefined? State, it should be there. It's not undefined.
yeah, because the market dump is what they call it. So it's related to the market dump.
Explain more. Why state? It's
Because the markdown, you have to bind it.
precisely.
Yeah.
It's we need to change the disk. Like the
It's not
arrow.
connected to the state.
Yeah. So
Because when you want to change the state, you need to set the state.
Yeah.
And because you don't have here, you have to bind it.
yeah, I need to change it. So either we change it to a row or make the binding here in the constructor that this equal this that bind. So we can just make it here.
Can you remember how many ways we bind it?
There is two ways.
Okay, one.
One,
What I did.
if you did like this, you don't need to bind it.
What about the second one?
The second one, you have to go to the state and write, for example, this
State?
dot- No,
The constructor.
The constructor,
Yeah.
Go there and write this dot, make item change
Yeah.
equal to this item change dot bind
Yeah, very
dot, no, parentheses.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever, that's syntax. Right. It's right. It's right.
Before you would coordinate with the
It was a normal function.
Yeah, so it means that D is related to the market dump.
It will change. Exactly. And in this
It's
case
not
it's
related
related to one.
anymore to the class.
Yes. But now with the row function we are sure that it's scoped to here. Let's try again. So we are right. So if we will say test2 and I click here, it's 2, here it's 1. Okay? So now we need to change the value of that.
So D is that set state.
So we can say, so we have the index.
Yeah.
Okay? We can say to do the done
Done.
equal not, no, yeah, to do the done. It's clear this line. We just flip it.
No. And
Now we need to change the state.
If parentheses,
Why? No, just continue. Why you want to do the if?
because when you change it,
We are already changing it here. If this is true, we say to do the done, which is true, equal not to do the done.
okay.
We make it false.
Okay.
Make it true. Make it false. Make it true. So this one is just flipping.
But when it's truly there is a start, and when it's false.
Yeah, but that's something we handle here in the list. In the list, we check if it's done or not here and put the class name.
Okay.
That's another thing. But this class doesn't know anything about the style. So this class is only handling the to-do and passing it to the list. The list can hide the to-do, show the to-do, do anything. Okay? This is separation of concern. One component is handling the state, another component is handling purely the styling. So this is like two different things. Clear? So now we can say this dot set state.
This state that to do. To do.
To do. Yes.
This state that to do.
Just no.
To do the. No.
No. This.
Because you're editing it before. So it's kind of efficient.
You just change one item.
Yeah.
Yes. Just we want to change it.
You all agree?
Anything else you need?
If you don't have anything else, we can try and see.
The question is, do you need anything more?
Yes, I think we need something more.
What is that?
I cannot remember. But because you know now you are
In the checkbox, you find the make it down.
in the
Yeah, we did. You can see here, done handler inside the checklist.
There is one.
And we add the
With the
element
ID
one.
on.
To what? An array?
No, which, yeah, like I understand, we take one object, change done there, and
And put
after
it back.
if we put it there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, I think it, mark it down, I think it's like a self, how to say, while functionality. That is, change it and refresh it, change it and refresh it. It gives you the same one with the thing.
Yeah, it's just like it's changing between.
That's what I've done with Muhammad because I thought that was the easiest
Yeah.
way. But I don't know if it's really correct.
okay.
Let's try. Yeah, do you have like an
Yes, after to do, you have to write the ID or index, then dot down.
But if
But we already did that. You can see here.
Okay, I have a question. Like our original state contains what? Our original state contains what?
An array of objects.
What is called?
To do.
To-dos. Anything
To-dos.
else? To-dos. Anything else?
No.
No, that's it. To do.
So it means that only. So it means that only if we pass these to-dos and like this set it's fine.
Yeah, we pass in
Wait,
the
wait.
array. We pass in the array.
No, it's fine.
To do and the input.
No,
No.
We don't need to do that because, as we said, to-dos will not replace the old values. To-dos will just append this and only change this. To not touch this and this. To not touch this. It will touch only the to-dos.
Do you understand what is the?
So if I will put input text here, I will change the input text. If it's not present, it will not touch it.
Okay.
You understand the point? Just that part of. Now, for example, if your
Exactly,
state.
partial update.
Yeah.
It's called partial update.
If your state contains, for example, 10 arrays, 20 variables, just concern what you are trying to
Yeah.
actually. Got the point?
Let's try.
It doesn't without all of it, right? Just
Now let's try.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Are you ready?
no.
We are ready. And it's working. It's working.
no, we have. Can you open? Can you see if?
No, you can see it from here. You don't need to, you can see from here.
I just want to see if down is changed between.
But this is changing. That means the done is changing because this is the coming. It's coming from the done. You can see here. Checked is item the done. So
Oh
if,
yeah.
if this is true,
Yeah, so if it's true, it changed the check value.
yeah. So if this is working, checking this will be just optional.
how can we add a new item?
Yes, we can say. Sorry, we.
Oh, we can use this.
And we can change it. Okay? Now we need to go and say like true or not. We need to put the style. So an easy thing is, so I would say class name. Okay? On the, not on the input, sorry. But on the text, class name. And I will put it as an object. And I will say, if it's item.done,
Okay.
we put this string. If it's not done, we put an empty string.
No.
No, it's better because this accepts string. We will not give it null. So we give it an empty string.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You give it an empty string.
And then you go to the CSS file and you change it.
You can see here.
You already did that.
I made this.
Cool.
Okay, if we for else, like if it's true, if it's else, we can put empty string, or we can
What do you mean?
do like could you please?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Like,
Yeah.
if you check on,
Yeah.
it means it is
Done.
done.
Yes.
And it just hits the, then the CSS will get the CSS ID. like the down one. And if you just do the same opposite thing, then it will just come up with him.
Okay.
You can just show her the CSS. Yeah. Just,
Oh, it's the CSS.
Okay.
We have a CSS class.
No, I understand this part, but my question was about like because when I try, I did the same, but when I like after my
Yeah, after you mark it done.
I don't know what I should put after, and I put something color red, a color blue.
Okay.
In this state, I can put only empty string, and it needs to be the same what was before
Yeah.
change. Okay. Not okay. Sorry.
That's fine.
No, that's okay.
More questions? Do you have any questions?
It was so long.
Yes, definitely. If you know.
If you don't have any questions, we can go for a break. If you don't have any questions. So let's go for a break and stop recording.